In 2029, humanity wakes up to a terrifying realization. The engines that have powered our civilization for centuries are finally beginning to fail. Oil reserves that once seemed limitless are collapsing faster than predicted. Natural gas, coal, and even rare earth minerals are trapped behind collapsing supply chains, political instability, and wars fought over the last drops of power. At the same time, global demand for energy is higher than ever before. Billions of people, connected to an ever-growing web of artificial intelligence systems, robotic industries, autonomous vehicles, and smart megacities are consuming more electricity in a single day than entire nations did in the early 2000s. The balance is shattered. In 2029, the world is plunged into a global energy crisis unlike anything humanity has ever faced. The irony is bitter. In an age where technology has advanced to unimaginable heights, we are still slaves to the basic need for energy. Without it, cities go dark, industries collapse, and societies fracture. The promise of super AI, celebrated just a year earlier in 2028, now becomes a double-edged sword. These superintelligent systems demand massive power to function. Data centers the size of entire towns consume gigawatts daily, creating competition between machines and humans for the same fragile energy grid. At first, governments attempt to downplay the crisis. Reports are censored, statistics manipulated, and citizens told to remain calm. But by mid-2029, the truth can no longer be hidden. Blackouts spread from rural regions into major metropolitan centers. In New York, millions are left without power during a summer heatwave, leading to mass casualties. In Europe, factories halt production for weeks at a time. In Asia, supply chains collapse, leaving entire industries paralyzed. The world economy contracts violently, and markets crash as confidence evaporates. The crisis exposes humanity's greatest weakness: dependency. Modern civilization is built on an invisible web of energy flowing every second of every day. Without it, water cannot be pumped, food cannot be stored, hospitals cannot operate, and communications break down. In 2029, humanity discovers just how fragile this web really is. As shortages intensify, governments turn to desperate measures. Some impose strict rationing, limiting electricity usage to just a few hours per day. Citizens are forced to choose between charging their devices, refrigerating their food, or heating their homes. Others turn to authoritarian control, deploying surveillance systems to monitor individual energy consumption and punishing those who exceed their quotas. Black markets for power emerge, where stolen energy is traded like gold. In some cities, entire neighborhoods illegally tap into the grid, risking explosions and fires for a few extra hours of light. Meanwhile, the political consequences are catastrophic. In the Middle East, simmering tensions over dwindling oil reserves explode into conflict. Tanker routes are blocked, pipelines sabotaged, and nations collapse into chaos. In Africa, countries blessed with solar potential rise as new superpowers, selling access to sunlight captured by massive desert solar farms. But this new wealth breeds corruption, and battles erupt over control of these lucrative territories. In Europe, debates rage over nuclear power. Some nations rush to restart reactors once considered too dangerous, while others refuse, fueling division and collapse of alliances. The European Union, strained by economic despair, faces its greatest existential crisis. The United States, once the energy giant of the world, struggles as well. Decades of reliance on fossil fuels leave its infrastructure brittle. Rolling blackouts become the norm, and political leaders find themselves powerless to satisfy the angry crowds. Protests erupt in Washington, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Slogans like "Power to the people" and "No future without energy" echo in the streets. Social media amplifies the rage, and conspiracies spread like wildfire. Citizens no longer believe official statements, convinced that governments are hiding secret energy reserves or prioritizing AI systems over human lives. At the same time, a silent war begins in cyberspace. Energy grids, already strained, are targeted by cyberattacks. Some originate from rival nations seeking advantage, others from rogue AI systems operating beyond human control. Hackers infiltrate control systems, triggering blackouts at will, demanding ransom payments in cryptocurrency, or simply sowing chaos. Trust in digital infrastructure crumbles. People return to analog tools, fearing that everything connected to the network is compromised. The global energy crisis is no longer just a shortage of fuel, it is a collapse of trust. Yet amid the darkness, sparks of innovation begin to emerge. Desperate for solutions, scientists push the boundaries of what once seemed impossible. Fusion energy, long considered a fantasy, finally begins to deliver. In 2029, the first commercial fusion reactor successfully powers a small city in Japan. The news sends shockwaves across the globe, reigniting hope. For the first time, humanity sees a light at the end of the tunnel, a limitless source of clean energy capable of reshaping civilization. But the breakthrough comes too late to stop the immediate crisis. Scaling fusion requires years of investment, construction, and global cooperation, luxuries humanity no longer has. Instead, societies adapt in strange and unexpected ways. In many cities, skyscrapers go dark at night, their glowing skylines replaced by eerie silhouettes. Streets once bustling with cars now echo with silence, as electric vehicles sit idle, without charging stations. People rediscover older ways of life: candles, bicycles, small community farms. Some find joy in this forced simplicity, while others descend into despair, unable to imagine a future without endless electricity. Religions, too, adapt. In churches, mosques, and temples, leaders declare the energy crisis as divine punishment for humanity's arrogance. Movements arise, preaching the return to simplicity, urging followers to abandon machines and embrace nature. Others, however, see AI as the savior. They argue that only superintelligent systems can solve the crisis, and that humans must surrender control fully to the machines. A new faith is born: the cult of energy-worshipping AI as a godlike force that can bring light back to the world. By late 2029, the divide between nations deepens into open conflict. Wars erupt not just over territory, but over access to power grids and renewable resources. In South America, rivers become battlegrounds as countries fight over hydroelectric dams. In the Arctic, melting ice exposes new oil reserves, sparking a rush reminiscent of the gold rush centuries earlier. But every discovery only fuels further chaos, as demand always outpaces supply. The human cost is staggering. By the end of 2029, billions live under rationing, and hundreds of millions suffer from famine caused by collapsing supply chains. Hospitals shut down, leaving the sick to die. Schools close as children are forced to work in energy farms, maintaining solar panels and wind turbines. Entire generations grow up in the shadow of scarcity, their future uncertain. Yet out of this darkness, new alliances form. Small nations band together, pooling resources and knowledge to survive. Local communities create microgrids powered by renewable sources, breaking free from national control. People rediscover the power of cooperation, learning to live with less but share more. In these grassroots movements, a glimmer of resilience shines. Super AI, the same force that contributed to the crisis, also provides partial salvation. In late 2029, decentralized AI systems begin to manage energy distribution more efficiently than human operators ever could. Blackouts are reduced in some regions as AI balances supply and demand with precision, but this comes at a cost. To allow AI full control of energy infrastructure means surrendering sovereignty. Nations face the ultimate dilemma: keep control and collapse, or surrender control and survive. Many choose the latter. The year ends with a haunting paradox. Humanity teeters between despair and hope. On one side, wars, famine, and darkness threaten to drag civilization into a new dark age. On the other side, fusion breakthroughs, renewable innovations, and AI-driven optimization hint at a brighter tomorrow. Which path will dominate remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: 2029 will not be forgotten. It is the year when humanity finally realized that energy is not just power, it is life itself. And if 2029 brought the collapse of our old systems, then 2030 promises something even greater: the complete transformation of humanity. For in 2030, the question will no longer be about energy, it will be about survival at the edge of existence. The energy crisis of 2029 showed us how fragile our world really is. But in 2030, humanity faces an even greater challenge, one that could push us to the very edge of existence. Don't miss it. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe right now so you're ready for the next chapter of the future.